Stun slamming. It's one of the hardest, most advanced mace techniques, but I managed to teach it to somebody in like 5 minutes, so I'm going to teach you how to stun slam and attribute swap mace and a secret third tactic, which nobody seems to know how to counter, and which is by far the most OP when fighting a macer. So let's get right into it. First off, there's normal stun slamming. Now this is actually... I'm gonna kill you. This is actually pretty difficult. You don't have the right setup, so I'm gonna show you what you need. First, you want to go into the server crystalrank.org, and there you want to do the following thing. When you first enter crystalrank.org, you're gonna spawn in here. I said in here. Load. Good boy. You're gonna spawn in here. This is the main lobby. What you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to press /hit. Then you're gonna press on the bookshelf, and then you're gonna press on the mace. Now you can exit out and you have the mace hit. You want to put your axe at the first slot and your mace at the second slot. Next, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to type in /r/RTP desert. Please excuse my dyslexic. Now, once you're in the desert, there's one more command that you have to do before you can start your stun slamming journey. Now, if you want a normal attribute swap, then you press /bot and you just spawn the bot. And I'm going to show you attribute swap macing later on in this video, but first we're going to start off with stun slamming. The reason why you click this, you're going to press on the die that I just did, and it's going to spawn a bot. At first the shield is going to be glitched, so just hit them with your axe. They're going to lift up their shield and look at you. They have infinite totems, so you can practice on them as much as you want. Now for the setup. Now, stun slamming is very, very difficult if you have the wrong setup, but with the right setup, it's unbelievably easy. So, one of the first things that you should probably know is that you can get a app called X Mouse button or something like that, which allows you to customize any of your mouse buttons. Now, this might seem like it's pointless, but I'll explain why you need this later. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make the side buttons on your mouse. I'll pop them up on screen right now. And you're going to want to make those another hit button. I'll explain why later. Just trust me, because it's very important. Now, how to actually do it. You want to have breeze rods in your offhand and jump up right next to your enemy holding the shield. Now that you have swapped the side buttons on your mouse to another hit, what you do is you hit them with your axe, then you swap to your mace, and you press the side button on your mouse, which I just did right there. You can practice this in slow motion on them. Hit, and then swap to mace, and then hit again. The second hit should be done with the side mouse button, as it's a lot more consistent as you do it that way, because hitting twice with left click is a bit hard to pull off with the right timing. So it's a lot easier to use your thumb for your left mouse button and your first finger for your normal left mouse button, and your thumb for the side mouse button, which with X mouse button you have hopefully just changed to be another normal hit. So you just have to get that timing done. So use your first finger to hit with axe, then swap to mace, then use the mouse side button to hit with mace. All of this while you're falling, and you start doing all this when their head is at your feet, or when their head is about to be at your feet from your perspective. And that's stun slamming. Then all you have to do is hit it once and start making the timing better and better, because just doing it at their feet isn't a good indicator. I've mastered the timing, so let me do stun slam. This is embarrassing shit. There you go. So that is about the timing. You want to watch and look back at that, but that's not exactly how you should do it. You should just know that whenever on your POV it looks like their head is at your feet, or is about to get to your feet, that is when you hit with your axe and then swap to mace, and then use your side mouse button on mace. That is stun slamming. Just practice this and you'll get incredibly consistent. I'll show myself doing it with subtitles and slowed down of what I do. Now that you learn how to stun slam, there's one more technique that you should know. Stun slamming is only for when your enemy is using a shield in Mace PvP. If they don't have a shield, or if they're instead offhanding a totem, Stun slamming does do slightly more damage if you do it when they're without a shield, as you're hitting them with an axe and a mace. However, since it's still hard to pull off even after you master it, it's better that you just not do that at all, and you instead attribute swap when they don't have a mace. Attribute swapping is when they don't have a shield. Attribute swapping is a lot more simpler than stun slamming. With stun slamming, you have to hit twice, with your axe and then with your shield. However, with attribute swapping, it's a lot more simple, because all you have to do in attribute swapping, let's disable the shield. Here's a setup that you're going to want for attribute swapping, by the way. You're just not going to do anything and spawn in the box. So, for attribute swapping, instead of hitting with your axe and then swapping to mace, then hitting with mace with your side mouse button so that it's faster, because hitting twice on just your left mouse button is difficult, attribute swapping is swapping to mace right before you hit them. The timing is pretty similar to stun slamming, so that is attribute swap macing, what I just did. Let me explain it for all you nerds. Whenever you swap to an item, the game will think for a moment that that item's enchantment is on the other item. Now that made absolutely no sense, so let me make it make sense. If you have a sharpness 5 axe and a mace, and you swap from your axe to your mace, for a split second, the game thinks that your mace has the enchantments. For some reason, it loads the fact that you went to another weapon, and so if you hit, it'll then do all the damage and attack speed of that new weapon which you're actually on, but for a split second it hasn't calculated the new enchantments, so it still thinks sharpness 5 is on the mace. This makes the mace do a lot more damage. Oh, and by the way, attribute swapping is just what it's called when you're tricking the game into thinking that your mace has sharpness. So let me go over stun slamming and attribute swapping one more time before I show you guys the secret OP technique, which like for some reason barely anybody knows about. Stun slamming. You go up with your breeze ball. When they're at your feet, you hit them with your axe, and then swap to mace and use the side button. That's stun slamming. You see how their shield was disabled and I maced them. Now, for attribute swap mace. Swap to mace and then hit. Holding your axe, which has sharpness on it, then you swap to your mace and hit them. That's both of them for you. Now, for the really overpowered tech. When you're inside of PvP with somebody, let me rip this person from existence. So, the technique is to get a breach mace. We're going to be doing what we did with the axe and the density mace, to attribute swap, except instead of attribute swapping to a mace, we're going to attribute swap breach to our axe. So we're pretty much going to be giving breach to our axe. Now what does breach enchantment do? It pretty much nullifies most of your armor's protection. So the higher and stronger somebody's armor is, the more overpowered breach is. Of course, it doesn't nullify all of the armor's damage, which is why density mace is better for just normal mace PvP. Here's the technique. Right as you're just about to hit the ground, you swap to your mace, and then you swap back to your axe and crit. I reckon that you could pop somebody in full prop 4 netherite armor with this technique in about 5-ish hits, maybe 3. It's incredibly overpowered. However, it's also really hard to pull off. As you can see, I'm only landing an actual crit with the sound, which tells me that I did it properly, only once every now and then. It's extremely hard to pull off. It's a little bit easier to pull off with the sword, so if you like sword PvPing, then that's for you, I guess. As you can see, I'm getting it much more consistently, and it's still dealing, when I do it properly, 1 or 2 hearts at a time, which is incredibly OP. There you go, pop them already. Very, very, very OP strategy. The only issue is that it's quite hard to pull off, and to do it, you also need a breach mace that has a high enough level of breach where it's even worth trying to do. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. This is normal. Usually, like my other videos, I'm like making racist jokes or something. This was just a tutorial trying to help people. So I don't know. It was done gatekeeping it. Okay. Anyways, subscribe to me, please, because most of my videos are actually like not just tutorials. Please, I'm begging you. I'm on my knees.